Hey y'all boys, what's good? It's your boy Mar back in the video on y'all with today. And they say title, and today we'll be reviewing the last movie in the trilogy, Iron Man 3. We're starting phase 2 as we started phase 1 with an Iron Man movie, but I feel like this movie is kind of overhated. This movie is honestly really fun. Like, they do a lot of things in this movie that they don't do in the other Iron Man movies. In my opinion, this is like my favorite Iron Man movie, and I feel like it's the most fun Iron Man movie. If you haven't seen my other MC reviews, make sure to go watch them. I did all of phase 1 already, but let's go ahead and start talking about things that's actually in this movie. They gave us flashbacks on how Tony created his demons, which are like, you know, our villain and side villain of the movie. I honestly forgot that Jensen was in this movie, which also I'm glad that they brought back what he said in Iron Man 1, because what he said was true. Like, he was actually here. They did meet before.
We met once, you know, at a technical conference in Bern.
As usual, RDJ is as charismatic and great as he always is. Like, he's such a great actor, man. This scene was hilarious and cool at the same time. Tony lets us know he hasn't been sleeping well lately, and then they tease the villain, which a lot of people hate, but we'll talk about that later though. I love that Tony has PTSD about everything that happened in New York because it seems more realistic and it makes more sense. Like, I'm glad we actually touched on this. Happy said for all you to put on your badge, I don't know why you still don't have it on. Killian is risen up Pepper with his new look and technology. Somehow Happy doesn't know how to use an iPad despite basically being Tony Stark's best friend. Is crazy. I'm actually glad Tony's talking to Pepper about everything instead of just trying to continue to keep it all inside, because we all know it's not good to just keep everything, especially something like that, contained inside of you. Happy, I don't know why you thought it was a good idea to show him you had evidence of what was going on, but you did it anyway, bro.
Here's my home address. 10880 Malibu Point, 90265.
Did this motherfucker just dox himself? Tony has done a lot of crazy shit, but this might be the craziest. I still to this day don't get why Tony wouldn't just let people leave. Like, anything that had to do with the Mandarin in the beginning of this movie, Tony was just being pretty dumb, to be honest. I like how creative these fights are in this movie. Even here, like, it's not just a typical robot versus robot fight. Tony has to find other ways to fight because this suit isn't combat ready. Jarvis is such a W because Tony should actually be dead right now. Jarvis sends Tony to Tennessee and he meets his kid who acts like he doesn't know Tony, but he clearly does.
Dad went to 7-Eleven to get scratchers. I guess he won because that was 6 years ago.
Which happens, Dad's leave. No need to be a pussy about it. Here's what I need.
Tony, why did you say this to a child? They finally show us a little of what's going on with Killian and the Mandarin. I like how his kids are asking all these questions about what happened in New York, and the PTSD just handled so well in this movie. Like, I'm glad we actually deal with it, because with the things that happened in New York, like, Tony literally was sacrificing himself. He thought he wasn't going to make it back. So if we didn't talk about this, that would have been kind of unrealistic. I like how creative Tony had to be in this fight also, because he was literally handcuffed. The fight scenes in this movie are the best fight scenes of Iron Man in general. The chemistry between Tony and Harley is great. Like, almost all their conversations are hilarious.
I'm cold.
I can tell. You know how I can tell? Because we're connected.
With what we know happens later in the movie, I'm pretty sure he didn't actually shoot this guy, but I also don't know what they ended up doing with him.
Give me your login.
War Machine Rocks with an X, all caps.
Rody, that is a terrible password. Stan Lee! This might actually be the quickest Stan Lee cameo in the whole MCU. Yeah, Gary, this is a pretty bad tattoo, man. We even get the detective side of Tony in this movie. Like, I really feel like we focus in on Tony a lot more in this movie. I think this movie really shows that Tony is Iron Man, and like, he's the only one that can be Iron Man. I really like how Harley is literally aiding Tony Stark. Tony loves making things with his little box of scraps. We even see Stealth Iron Man in this movie. Honestly, everything they did with Tony was just so fun, because we had to see him do things outside the box and do things that we normally wouldn't see him do. Most people hate this Mandarin fake out, but I honestly don't mind it. Especially now that we actually got the Mandarin and he was still a really good villain. Also, I really like Killian's execution, but I hate his motivation. I'm sorry, but all this is because you had a business proposition that Tony didn't meet up with for you, so you decided to ruin his life and become a villain. Literally experimenting on humans. I think he went way too far, because yes, in some instances you are helping people, but then also you're literally killing others. And like, I get why he's doing what he's doing, but I just feel like his motivations are a little weak. Who was in charge of this fight choreography? These are easily the best action scenes in all of his movies. I honestly didn't expect this vice president twist, but it was actually a good one. This has to be one of, if not Marvel's most creative ways of a hero saving people. Like, this scene is so cool. First time seeing this, I was so confused, but this is a great way to trick the audience. They also showed the friendship between Tony and Rhodey a lot in this movie, which I really appreciate because they seem like they're real friends.
You can't hit a boat with this distance.
Another thing this movie made sure to do was show how badass Rhodey is, because he's not just Tony's sidekick. Like, no, he's actually like that. Like I said once and I'll say it again, this movie is very different from the other two in the trilogy, especially when it comes to the action scenes. Like, they took a lot of chances in this movie in different routes, but I feel like it really works and ultimately made these action scenes way better than the other two movies. Pepper now being the one to save Tony is great. I understand why Tony blew Ball's suits, and like thematically it makes a lot of sense, but I'm not gonna lie, there's no way I'm blowing up all these suits. If I was to be nitpicky, I guess one of the things I didn't really like about this movie was the narrating. Like, it wasn't bad. Like, I think RDJ did a good job narrating, but it just felt off for an Iron Man movie, in my opinion. I also really like this post-credit scene, like him trying to talk to Bruce Banner, and of course he just doesn't have the patience or temper to be able to listen to stories like this. It's just a funny little scene. I'm gonna give Iron Man 3 an 8.25 out of 10. Like I said before, I really enjoyed this movie a lot. I feel like it's my favorite Iron Man movie. I think it's one of the most fun Marvel movies in general. And there's a lot of things, like when it comes to Tony, that I really like a lot in this movie. For example, like his PTSD, the way that they used it in this movie, I feel like was great. RDJ, of course, was just great as always. I feel like the supporting cast did really good. And even though I don't really like this villain, I still think his acting was good. I just, like I said before, I just don't like his motivations. Like, I feel like his execution was great. To have a poster boy and you being the one behind the scenes actually doing everything, that's great. I really like that a lot. But I don't like how you did all of this because you got left on the roof. I'm sorry. I can't get behind that. But yeah, let me know how you felt about Iron Man 3 and how you felt about this review. Like I said before, make sure to go watch all the other MCU reviews. I did all of phase 1 already. And if you want to see me react to shows like Invincible, I've been dropping those weekly. All my Loki episode reactions are out now on the reaction channel. If you want to see them, link will be in the description down below. And next week, I'll be reviewing the best Thor movie. But y'all boys, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. And make sure to always trust the process.
Film me.